And this week we're talking about progress. And why are we talking about progress this week? Well, if we're not feeling that progress in our life, that's when anxiety comes in. That's when we start to feel listless. That's when we start to, question what we're doing with our lives. And so being connected to our ambitions, being connected to that clear vision we have for the future of ourselves, of our families, of our businesses and communities is super important. So today, start your week great. Start your week with a coach. I'm your host, certified high performance coach, Sean Butner, and we're going to talk about something that'll help you advance in your life this week. So let's go. Today is Sunday, and this morning I went through my morning journaling. I like to do every week, and because when I am able to accomplish that journaling, and I'm a person and have my consistency or I don't, and those times when I'm not consistent are the times when for me, my focus dwindles. I'm more easily distracted. You don't have your goals on the top of your mind, so you're not thinking like, oh, I should advance this today, right now. It's easier to put things off to the future and that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if you've ever been in that kind of mode, but that's happened to me a ton of times in my life. So that's why the Sunday journaling for me is so important. But I think in general, it's really important to have these reflection rituals in our lives. And that's why this month we've been talking about getting clear on what you wanted for the year. At the beginning of this month, we talked about creating your personal New Year's revolution, the new you for the new year, so that you have that vision for yourself in your career, in your health, in your well-being, and your relationships, and anything else that's important to you in your life, so that you have that goalpost of where you're trying to go, right? And so this is all about how are you moving down the field, right? These reflection habits are what's working, what's not working, how am I feeling the progress towards those goals that I set up for myself, what types of course corrections might I need to make, that kind of stuff. So for me, I like to use the AMP framework, and really it's just a 3-step process. And I know that so many people will skip this active reflection because it takes up so much time, or they're so busy, or there's all these excuses that get in the way. And as your coach, it's my job to challenge you a bit and say you can make the time for this. It could take you 10 minutes to do a quick weekly review to see how, to keep your goals in mind, and then to see how you're progressing toward it, and then to feel it, right? There's a certain joy towards that progress that we can make in our lives, and I want you to have that joy in your life too. So what is the AMP framework, and how can you set it up correctly, right? And then I'll give you the big thing that's really going to make the difference in your life, right? So first, what is the AMP framework? A is assess your high-level objectives, right? So this is what are you going to do this quarter if you're in a business context, or what is your 90-day challenge for maybe a more personal type thing. And so for me in my business, I'm working on growing my coaching programs. I'm working on launching a new kind of secret project that I've kind of talked about a little bit, but you guys will hear about that later. And so, January through March is focused on those big goals, right? And personally, I'm trying to get back into running shape because later this year I'll be 40, and so I want to do a half marathon before I'm 40, just to kind of reset my health and get back into that. So how have I been, those are the big goals for me. What are your big goals in the next 3 months, right? So if you were listening, I have some career goals, I have a health goal, some personal goals, which I haven't shared. Really this next 3 months, I'd love to get back to Chicago to see my dad. I haven't seen him in person in quite a bit. So working on getting all that set up. So, what are those different big objectives for you? And then the M part is measure the results for the week. So this is what are the things that you are actively doing or actively did this past week that moved you towards one of those goals, right? So for me, it's been working on a lot of messaging. It's been working on a lot of my marketing materials. And so that's a good measure that will lead to an increase in business for my coaching programs, right? For my health, I've been working out 2 times a week. I've been getting out for walks, right? That's kind of the measures that I have right now that'll get me to a half marathon later this year. I hope. Maybe it's too much, but I like to do big, broad goals and see if I can do it, just to be motivated by that. So what are those meaningful measures in your life that map to those big objectives, right? And then the P part is to process your progress, right? So either you're like, hey, I'm on track and I can feel really good that I'm making momentum, I have momentum, I'm making progress towards my goal. Or if you're not where you need to be, that's when you're like, okay, like what happened? What can I do differently next week to get me back on track, right? It's a very, very simple, kind of bare bones reflective process. But if you're doing this consistently, if you're doing this every week, you're going to, one, keep those goals and those big objectives in your head a lot more, and so that will increase your motivation. At least it does for me. And the people I've worked with, the constant reminder that you're supposed to be doing something toward something that's meaningful to you is the magic sauce for motivation, in my opinion. Second thing is, what are the active things that you can measure that are tangible? So, like, I did the run, I did the walk, I did the workout, I did the, marketing document, I did, those types of things. Or it's the proof that you're progressing, right? So you don't have to guess. You're like, oh, I think I'm pretty good here. It's like, no, like I did the things that are going to make the difference later. And then finally, processing that progress, like, oh, I can feel good this week. I can start the week with a little bit of joy, a little bit of levity, a little bit of excitement for continuing the progress. Or I can say, hey, like, I need to shift my strategy on getting back to running, right? Walking isn't enough. Maybe I need to do a couple of half-mile runs this next week in order to make sure that I'm progressing that goal, just as a concrete thing. So again, and I want to stress, whether you have this process to kind of actively reflect on your progress, or you have your own process to actively reflect, it's important that you have something that you're reviewing every week, right, to kind of help keep you focused, help keep you motivated. And it's way more important to be consistent with it than it is to actually accomplish it. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you are constantly staring at those things that are meaningful to you and you're not making the progress the first couple of weeks, like the fact that you're taking a look at it and you're thinking about it, eventually your brain will be like, we need to get this done, right? I've seen that happen over and over and over again. And it's not to say that you want to make sure you're keeping promises to yourself so you don't feel bad, but that's part of it too, though. If as soon as you get started and get a little bit of motivation, a little bit of momentum, a little bit of progress, it'll start kind of being this feedback loop, right? So you'll say, oh, I'm progressing, I should do a little bit more, I'll keep a little more focus on it, and it just keeps on going. So I hope you have your Sunday reflection habit. If you haven't done it today, the first thing you should do after watching this video is go open your journal, assess your high-level objectives, measure the results for the week, and process your progress. So feel the wins, make adjustments for things that you need a little bit more progress on, and I promise next week will be better. So with that said, guys, you got this. This is Sean Butler say, live your day with more joy, more personal growth, and more impact in communities. And I will see you next week. Take care.